Hello and welcome back to A Better World. This is your host Mitchell J. Rabin and I'm very glad you're joining us again today. Today we're going to have another very interesting show. I have invited to be our guest Ed Japngie from Phoenix, Arizona, who has developed a series of products called Life Beat products, and it's a result of his work as a biomedical engineer for actually decades, looking at the interface of healing with technology and technology with consciousness. What is the role of our will? What is the role of our intent when it comes to the utilization of software, of different kinds of machines for healing, or for any number of different kinds of spiritual evolutionary activities? And that's really the subject of today's show, because this is a domain that is not well known, but becoming more so. And Ed has been really on the cutting edge of this, so we're very glad to have him here. And at a certain point in the show, we're going to give you a demonstration of the use of some of his sprays that are supercharged with energy in such a way that, well, what you see is something that is very unusual, something you won't see in other places, having to do with something you could call defying gravity. So with that, Ed, glad to have you on the show.
Pleasure to be with you again, Mitchell. It's a pleasure.
Good. So what is it that brought you into this field in the very first place? And then we'll go from there. What inspired you?
It's probably primarily my curiosity on how originally was with homeopathy, and how that played a role, and how you were able to take a minute amount of either a plant, a mineral, or an animal, and then have that completely get rid of a disease or an emotional condition or psychological condition, and that intrigued me.
Yeah.
So.
Where in the less you have of a substance actually increases its potency.
Exactly.
I mean, where do you get that inverse relationship in nature, typically?
Right, and it shows up in a lot of different areas. But we're at a society where we think, we're supersize me. Right, everything is bigger is better. And
Mo is better.
Yeah, exactly. and so when you're talking about subtle energy, we're not talking about using a sledgehammer.
Exactly. It gets lost in the mix.
Exactly.
If you look at our regular conventional medicine, they've got like the scalpels ready and heavy duty drugs at hand.
Exactly.
Ready to
exactly.
dose somebody.
But that's it, exactly. We kind of treat, even from the medical industry, we're looking at our body like a car.
A machine, right?
Yeah, your car, your kidney's not working. Let's find you an OEM replacement kidney. So it's really
without
interesting.
Taking into consideration the energy of it, the soul that was behind generating the kidney in the first place, that there's a soul, and even just on a more plain level, a personality.
Absolutely.
That has been interacting with the environment and the world and itself in a particular way. You can't just take that out and stick it in another person and expect that kidney is its own entity, its own being, really.
Exactly, and there's going to be consequences in regard to that. And that was kind of what I got into really looking at, was what is that connection? What is the information? What is the matrix that, if you were to take, stem cells, how does a stem cell know to become a cell of a kidney?
Liver or kidney,
or whatever it is. I mean, what is that mechanism that is that perfection? Because I heard this term once, that the perfection, or what was it? The perfection of imperfection is absolute perfection. That's very interesting, because that's kind of how that's, here we are in a technological age where we can't make as much as an eyelash, and yet the human body is capable of doing things way beyond anything that technology has been able to emulate.
Exactly.
And again, that kind of brings us back to an interesting point where what I was looking at was okay, well, here we've taken a computer, which is kind of a model of how we think our brain works, in conjunction with our peripherals, which are our organs, and then the software mechanism being our belief systems, the DNA, and all of these components. So I figured, wow, if that's the case, then you can run a defrag on your computer. You can take software that is like, antivirus software and really kind of speed up your system, streamline it. And then what about putting in new programs? So that's how this kind of evolved from the idea of homeopathy, which was just one minute particle of something broken down to the millionth part. And I said, well, what if we created a whole program instead? So, those programs became about us being able to experience more of who we are. So meaning,
interesting.
So meaning that the products, the sprays, are all geared towards performance activation.
Right.
But they don't make you more than what you already are. Rather, it makes you have realization of you experiencing more of yourself. And that's the mechanism of action.
Very interesting. So, like homeopathy, these sprays are calibrated in some way according to a resonance field, as according to frequency. Could you talk a little bit about how that operates? You're an electrical engineer initially.
Exactly.
And then got interested in holistic healing and vibrational healing and this and that, and then you started to kind of marry together the components.
Exactly.
Right?
And that was the interesting thing, is, kind of as I was working in medical imaging, and so the whole idea of magnetic resonance, which is, the imaging system that they use, MRI, and how you could use large magnetic fields to displace the molecular structure just for an instant to be able to create an image was very fascinating, and so the fascination has always been there. So in regard to...
What did you do then in order to, how do you design something that could help people be more of who they are? I mean, it seems like another world, almost like a brave new world, that there can be some kind of frequency generator or what have you that would have that kind of inherent potential.
Sure. Well, the main thing is that they have the old adage, we are our own worst enemy, and that's because of our thought process, the emotions that are going on. These things are being constantly sent out. One of the things that we don't realize is that every thought that we have is being broadcast out, and therefore it's like an echo, whereas whatever it is you're thinking about, you're drawing that more of that to yourself. Okay, so if we could kind of change that programming of what is it that you're putting out, and then also amplifying that, okay, because basically every cell in your body is a transmitter and it's a receiver, and it's constantly has this interchange of information. As they said, the brain processes 4 billion bits of information a second. A lot of that is erroneous information about environmental factors such as EMF, changes in temperature.
Erroneous or just disturbing information?
Disruptive information. Okay, even just wearing clothes. I mean, that's a lot of information.
What are you suggesting?
Well, that would be very interesting. You go down to Jamaica for a week.
I thought I would have you as a guest and everything would be just fine.
So the body is a creature of deletion, meaning that
yeah, exactly.
We take information.
I mean, Aldous Huxley said that in The Doors of Perception, that if 4 billion bits of information per second get in, it's already gated out probably 44 billion bits per second.
And it can only really deal with 2,000 bits.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's like,
so we live in a state of sensory overload, in a sense, until we activate our will to relax things a bit and, focus and become more coherent, which allows our a steadiness of perception, and then a steadiness of mind.
And you hit the nail on the head, because that's the key word, is coherence. So coherence is defined as the absence of chaos.
Yeah.
So the environment is contributing a huge amount of chaos.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is, like I said before, it's not just this external information that's creating chaos.
Right.
It's the thought process. The thought process is just as chaotic, because you're processing information about your job, about your going home and dealing with your spouse and your children getting bad grades or whatever it is. All this information is just an overload. So the products...
I mean, here's a laser. Excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt, but this creates like some kind of coherent beam. Could you just...
Absolutely.
Show me how
a laser is by definition a coherent beam. Okay, so what this is an instrument that is a laser is the carrier wave of information. So whatever it is that you're shining the laser on is receiving the information that's being delivered through that carrier wave.
Now, what is the information? I mean, what's the difference between this laser and any other laser by the same name?
Oh, well, laser is a laser. This one has been modified to deliver information and frequencies. People call them frequencies. What we're doing is more specific to algorithms. But if we look at it as frequencies and a program that's being delivered into a food. So, for example, this is a food and beverage laser. It's going to significally increase.
You don't eat it, do you?
No. You would actually put it on your food, whatever it is you're eating. You shine it on for 10 minutes. Sorry, 10 seconds.
10 seconds.
10 seconds on your wine, your water, or whatever. It significantly increases the vitality. So we've done Kirlian photography and shown before and after, in which Kirlian photography is basically kind of like shows the energy.
The biofield.
Yeah, the biofield of from anything from a drop of water to a human being. And so this energy field is expanded as much as 500%. So obviously when you eat the food, you're also consuming that kind of vitality.
So from that point of view, you could actually eat a good deal less and get the same, if not more, vitality.
Oh, absolutely.
What we're talking about is life force, right?
Absolutely. And interestingly enough...
Chi.
Right. Exactly. And the interesting
thing is... What happens to water then?
Well, water is the same thing. With
more
water...
vitality, more life force of the water?
Exactly. And the reason why water is the key element here is because water is probably the absolute best medium that we have for storing information.
For carrying information.
Right. So, I mean, it said that one drop of water has a potential of carrying 1 terabyte of information. That's a lot of information.
You know, Ed, a number of years ago, I saw an article about computers being made in water.
Correct.
I mean, it sounds so bizarre. How can you make a computer in water? But that's what the article was about.
There's a computer in Los Alamos, from what I understand, and actually I've done some exhaustive research on trying to find information about it. I found something about it about 8 years ago, and since then I haven't found a thing on it.
Really?
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? I wonder if it was 8 years for me too. No, it was real. This was like publishing a fairly standard location, you know,
exactly.
that anybody could have accessed, and they were doing experiments with that, and I bet it has to do with its powerful memory conductive quality.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
well, you have a lot of people such as Emoto and Schomburg and all these people that have kind of demonstrated, you know, the power of water. And I mean, it's really, when you think about it,
conductive. And
it's amazing.
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
So, carrier of information for sure. So what do you put into the laser that distinguishes it from other? This is called a cold laser, is that correct?
Correct.
That distinguishes from other lasers and increases its life force. And you've done the same thing with these sprays.
Absolutely.
So it's just like a spritz of water. It's a spritz of water.
Spritz of life is right, more what it's like.
Life.
Absolutely.
Life spritz, right? Like that. What have you done? You know, like how does it happen? I mean, what kind of algorithm could you put in? I mean, it's almost like, the reason I'm asking is sort of like life force. The chi field is the fundamental building block of life itself. So that suggests that sort of like you and God have the blueprints on how to create life force in this case, somewhat of a mechanical way.
Right. Well,
that's like really interesting. You know, that's not like a
very simplified
ho hum. That's amazing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And basically what it is if you looked at it again as a program.
Am I exaggerating the potential?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely
power
not.
Of this?
The potential of this is phenomenal. And the feedback that we've gotten as far as what kind of results that people have gotten is phenomenal. So I am
as
always...
an example, give an example or two.
Oh my goodness. Well, most notably with the sprays, we're getting people that are using something like romance and attracting the love of their life, or attracting an amazing business partner, people that are using the power spray, which is meant for clarity and ability to articulate your thoughts, getting up in front of hundreds of people when normally would have had stage fright, and being able to talk as if they were just talking to their best friend.
That's good. What about, I mean, in my practice, I deal with people who are physically suffering. Headaches, physical pain, pelvic, knees, ankles, shoulders. What, does it have some effect on that?
Absolutely. Well, what in my my background is actually not just biomedical engineering, but also doing healing.
Yes.
And my observation is that when our energy flow through our body stops, then we start to get these red flag indicators, which can be heartburn, it can be lower back pain, headaches.
Stagnant or...
Correct.
Stagnant chi is really what it's called.
Right. So if you thought of it like a balloon that you kept blowing up, it's just going to continue to blow up, and it starts to develop stress spots. And those are pretty much signature stress spots on, yours are going to be different than mine are.
Sure.
But again, if we looked at it as a hose, all of a sudden, instead of a balloon, then the energy flows right through without creating this expansive stress and tension on the body. So, I mean, interestingly enough, even by just going into a meditative or a visualization state of feeling that energy flowing through you, you can reduce...
Start to move it.
Yeah, you can reduce a migraine from a 7 or 8 down to a 0 in a matter of seconds. It's really interesting.
Surely. But so then why would somebody want to use the laser, and if they can do it on their own? I mean, what particular advantage would there be?
Well, the advantage is
or
in...
the sprays, for that matter.
Yeah, is more in the convenience factor. Again, because of the information...
The lazy man's way to health and healing.
Yeah, but also an understanding, meaning that, I mean, it's a pretty profound understanding that's required to get the concept of balance. And that's really, you had asked before, what is it that makes this different? Is because it has the ability to ping and deal with the innate balance that is specific to you and unique to me, and then go ahead and start to balance all those things that are too expressed. There's too much energy here. There's not enough energy here. And again, like I said, that profile is going to be very different on every person. So we're bringing all of those into what some people call a 0 point, which in traditional Chinese medicine would be the balance of yin and yang. So
it looks like alignment to me.
Absolutely. So you're coming into an alignment.
You use the word ping. You're reminding me of one of my favorite scenes from a Monty Python movie where they're in a hospital and the doctors in the delivery room say, "Hurry up, the administrator is coming. Go get the machine that goes ping." Does that machine have any relationship to this machine?
Only smaller.
Less expensive. Yeah. So. No, it's just funny. Why do you use that word? I mean, what?
Because it's actually in a computer. Like if those of you who are familiar with the computer, you're pinging.
Ease, excuse
right.
me.
It's a tech
I'm showing
talk.
My,
tech talk.
Right, my lack of technical prowess.
I keep crossing that line from energy worker to techno geek.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
Right now, that was kind of the techno geek thing.
So what do you? I come back to this question of, I don't think we're going to have enough time to do a demo as we thought of, but let's share what we have seen, even as recently as this past weekend.
Sure.
Where we had a gentleman who was 280 pounds. He works for the FBI, lovely, lovely gentleman who was willing to be a demonstration model for us. Do you want to tell what happened?
Okay, so we had a room full of people. We brought in...
This was at a conference upstate.
Exactly. This FBI agent who was 6'3", 6'4", built like a linebacker, sat him down in a chair, had 4 people come up. Right. Yeah. 4 people come up, and we basically, with 2 fingers, we're trying to lift him under his knees, and in his armpits, and obviously it's physically impossible.
It was very hard.
Yeah.
Well, we lifted him about an inch or 2,
In our imagination, I think.
Well, we lifted him very little, and then like fast down.
Right.
And then...
Right, so we sprayed him with one of our sprays, which, again, is designed to bring the body into alignment. An interesting thing is that alignment is not just about the physical aspect, but it's also going down to the quantum level. And in the unified field, this kind of, again, techie stuff, but everybody understands what electromagnetics is, and everybody understands what gravity is. Mm-hmm. So those are 2 of the components in the unified field.
I don't know if we understand them, but we know they're there.
Yeah, we know. We've all heard of it. And we certainly know what happens when what gravity can do to you. So
yes.
We knew that the product, certainly in the past, would allow our body to coexist in a hostile environment of electromagnetics, but would it also be affecting gravitation? So that was kind of what we demonstrated yesterday, and then, like I said, we sprayed this FBI agent and waited a few minutes, and like Mitchell said, we were able to lift him about an inch off the ground, let it wait another 5 or 10 minutes, and we gave him some water, because, again, water is... Hydration is very important to anything, to life in general. And sure enough...
I'd say another 20 minutes later.
Okay.
So we actually waited. And then, well, in short, we were able to lift him.
Lift him up 4 feet off of the ground.
Right, 4 feet off the ground. And it wasn't because we got stronger.
Not at all.
During that time period.
No, not at all.
It was because he became lighter. And it wasn't just in our minds, it was in the field. I mean, it was an actual physical change.
That was videotaped, as a matter of fact.
And it was videotaped.
Yeah, we could probably do an addendum to this and actually, put in a clip where we show people how that's done. I mean, it's interestingly enough, you can find videos on YouTube where they use 4 people to do these lifts, and then what we're able to demonstrate is this can be done with 2 people.
Yes, exactly.
And that no one has seen.
280 pounds. And you've done, heavier than that.
Oh, absolutely.
And this guy this guy was muscle. This was a solid guy. Now, it was also, we should say, the intention.
Sure.
That we shared collectively.
Right.
And that helped. It wasn't like we were dwelling on it. We had it like for a moment, and then we just went about our business of seeking to lift him.
Absolutely. And this is really, it all boils down to that, because the product is a bridge between getting us past what we think we're capable of and where we really choose to be.
Oh, okay, so it's a kind of an actualization of potential.
Sure.
We're always talking about human potential on this show, Ed, and it's so important. And what does that look like? And it's not just to lift FBI agents into the air, God knows. But, it's really interesting to know that there is a bridge, something that helps to incite momentum.
Exactly.
In a direction toward the activation of our higher selves.
Oh, absolutely.
And our higher consciousness.
And what's exciting about it is like, what would it be worth to you to be able to manifest the love of your life instead of a parking spot? What would it be like to be able to manifest the lifestyle of your dreams?
Exactly.
Instead of...
Or let's talk about health.
Sure.
Because this is something that is so important. Everybody talks about, love and romance, and everybody talks about money, and those are, God knows, very, very, very important in life. health is the foundation of it all, without which, you know, all the romance and all the money is not going to be a whole lot of fun.
Sure.
So, I mean, that we can bring health and harness our internal lives is of the greatest value, you know.
Oh, absolutely. And it's so funny that because you mentioned that, and I've steered away from that, getting into talking about the health bit, because as a society, we're basically so mechanistic in our approach. I mean, we treat our car better than we treat our bodies.
Isn't that
you know?
true? Yeah.
So I think I should have been born my dog. I would be in better health.
Really. So spray yourself instead of your car.
Exactly.
You know?
So the sprays, they allow this shift in alignment and balance in your body, and as a result, the body knows exactly. I mean, the body's just stuck where it's at, and it's kind of in there, you know, can't get there from here.
Right.
Even though it's aware of what the matrix is, there's all this impedance or resistance to being able to reproduce that. So once that impedance and resistance is released, the body will come back into balance, and what we're seeing is body chemistry going into balance, the pH levels going into balance, people's hormones going into balance, even their blood levels going into balance.
Blood chemistry changing.
Correct, yeah. We're seeing free radicals dissipate in less than an hour, because, and again, it's not the spray doing anything. The spray is just providing the fertile soil for your body to do what it's supposed to do in the first place.
It's an impetus, like a push.
Exactly.
We've got about half a minute left, but I want to get to a thing because time passed so fast, and I think you ought to develop a spray to expand time, not just consciousness. And quickly.
5 more
In
minutes.
half a moment, could you tell us about the mirror vector? Because this has a collective effect on space.
Exactly.
Next on time. And
exactly.
Just give a quick, if you will.
Okay, so in a snapshot, this is all intention-based technology that is for the individual, whereas the mirror vector is a technology that is a field broadcast. It's meant for creating field conditioning, balancing out large areas. And what we're seeing is that it's very subtle in its effect, but we're seeing shifts in literally in how people's behaviors are. So on a large scale, meaning that, for example, on your radio show, I had given the example that there are several of these in Los Angeles, and they've been there.
In a given locale.
Correct, and these are very large scale. You're talking units that are about 50-mile coverage, 50-mile range.
Mm-hmm.
So it's broadcasting all this information about coherence, about human behavior, modification for, again, bringing in...
well, creating peace, creating inner coherence of the two hemispheres of the brain and balancing out all the things that you said here. Hormonal levels, blood chemistry, alkalizing typically from acidification.
Right, and those are all of the observable things that we've done through you know, those clinical studies that we've done. So anyway, the mirror vector allows you, we've seen in 5 years a decrease in violent crimes as much as 40% in the Los Angeles area.
That's incredible. We're going to have you back on to talk about New York. Ed, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to have you on to talk about this stuff. This is very heady, very beautiful, very powerful, and it really helps to spell out some of the future for us, and I so appreciate the work you're doing.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. This is Mitchell J. Rabin for A Better World. Please write to me at mjr@abetterworld.net. Share your thoughts and feelings with me, and get in touch with us at www.abetterworld.net. You can learn more about the products. We've got also a series of research, studies, and testing on the site as well for your information. Thanks again for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you all next week.